People don't just die of disease, they die of regret, of disconnection, of bitterness grown bone deep. But let me whisper this to your soul. Aging is not dying, it's the final act of becoming. And if you're blessed to be over 60, this message is not a warning, it's your second wind. They don't fall over from some great calamity. They don't die in some grand moment of exit. No, most people leave us in inches. They stop showing up even when they're present. They stop dreaming even when they're awake. They stop loving themselves even while they care for others. The body might still be moving, but the spirit, oh, the spirit, it has already sat down somewhere in a dark corner and turned its face to the wall. It begins subtly, a day skipped in joy, a passion placed back on the shelf, a voice that whispers, "You're too old for that now." And the worst part is, they believe it. At first, they still get up in the morning with purpose, but it has lost its music. They go through the motions. They perform life instead of living it. A slow retreat begins. They think they're just tired. They think they're just adjusting. But in truth, they've started to surrender. Surrender is not always loud. It can be silent, elegant, even socially acceptable. It wears many disguises. Retirement without renewal, silence without serenity, stillness without satisfaction. They'll say, "I've done my part," and close the curtain on their own becoming. But your becoming does not have an expiration date. Not at 60, not at 70, not even at 90. You can be new again in the last years of your life if only you refuse to let resignation take your hand. You see, life after 60 can be a quiet miracle or a slow fading. That choice is often made not in the grand decisions, but in the daily ones. Will you wake up and seek something new in your day, or will you say, "Nothing changes anymore"? Will you pick up the pen and write the poem that's been sitting inside your chest for decades, or will you tell yourself, "What's the point"? The point is, your soul is not done with you yet. You are not some overripe fruit. You are a harvest that is just now beginning to taste of depth. The younger years gave you strength, yes, but these years can give you soul. And don't let anyone tell you that soul has a deadline. So many people begin to disappear from their own lives. They let the world shrink. The walls close in. The television gets louder. The phone rings less. The steps get shorter, and not just in the legs, but in the spirit. They stop dancing, not because they physically can't, but because they believe they look foolish doing it. They stop singing aloud in the car, not because their voice is gone, but because they've forgotten what joy sounds like. They trade their fire for a flicker, their thunder for a hush. And why? Because someone once told them that past a certain age, you're supposed to quiet down, shrink back, be less. But let me tell you this in no uncertain terms. The world needs your fire now more than ever. It needs your stories, your laugh lines, your wisdom, your capacity for grace. The children need to hear your voice. The youth need to see how resilience looks in full bloom. You don't become irrelevant with age. You become sacred. But only if you don't bury yourself alive before the earth ever touches you. Don't surrender your curiosity. Keep asking questions. Keep raising your hand at life and saying, "I want more." More time, more laughter, more books read, more kisses given, more conversations that go long into the night. Even if your friends are fewer now, even if your family is scattered, even if the mirror has changed its tune, your heart still beats with rhythm. It still writes poetry in its own silent language. Listen to it. Some people start dying the day they retire, not because work was life, but because work gave them rhythm. They had somewhere to go, people to see, a reason to get up and be seen. Then the silence comes, the days stretch, the calendar gets blank, and they begin to fade. Not because of age, but because of absence. Absence from self, absence from joy, absence from purpose. Purpose does not retire, it transforms, it matures. You may not be the builder now, but you are the blueprint. You may not lift bricks, but you build people. You may not run the race, but you are the baton now passed with love, with stories, with presence. Don't rob the world of that by bowing out too soon. I've seen men and women glowing with life at 80, and others already gone at 63, though their pulse still ticked. What made the difference? The ones still burning had decided they were still becoming. They read new books. They tried strange foods. They flirted with adventure. They spoke to strangers on the street. They said yes more often than they said, "I'm too old." And in doing so, they kept living. Because living is not measured in years, it is measured in presence. And presence doesn't require youth. It requires courage. It requires boldness to wake up at 67 and say, "I will try something new today." It requires rebellion against the lie that says you've had your turn. You have not had your turn. You are having your turn. Right now, let us be honest. Fear is what truly kills. Not disease, not weakness, fear of looking foolish, fear of starting over, fear of not being needed, fear of being alone. But fear is a thief, and it only wins if you hand over your life without a fight. Don't let it. If no one has told you lately, you still matter, your voice matters, your story matters, your hugs, your wisdom, your mistakes, your prayers, your hands, they all matter. So don't quietly disappear. Don't slip into the background of your own life. Stand tall, even if your back aches. Speak truth, even if your voice cracks. Love wildly, even if loss has bruised you. You are not here to die politely. You are here to blaze. You are not the ash. You are the flame. And the world still needs your warmth. They say wisdom comes with age. But what they don't say, what many are too afraid to say, is that wisdom only comes if you stay curious. The moment curiosity dies, wisdom goes to sleep beside it. You can be old and experienced, yes, but you can also be old and empty. The difference is this: whether or not you've kept your fire for learning alive. Curiosity is the lifeblood of a vibrant mind. It's not something reserved for the young. A child asks questions because they are growing, but an elder must ask questions because they still are. Growth doesn't stop at 40. It doesn't pause at retirement. It doesn't dry up with gray hair. No, growth simply changes shape, and curiosity is its key. Most people stop growing, not because their bodies fail, but because their minds close like old doors. They stop learning, stop seeking, stop exploring new ways of seeing the same old world. They assume that because they've lived long, they've seen it all, but no one ever sees it all. The world is too big. The soul is too deep. The human experience too layered for anyone to ever say, "I've arrived." And yet that's what many do. After 60, the world tells you to settle, to shrink your curiosity into a tiny, acceptable shape, to stop asking why and start saying, "That's just the way it is." But that's not living. That's existing. That's wearing life like a pair of shoes that no longer fit, but refusing to take them off. There are men and women, bright as ever, who once questioned everything: the sky, the rules, the system, even their own hearts. But somewhere along the way, they were told to stop, to grow up, to know better. They traded questions for certainty, wonder for control, and so they aged, not just in years, but in spirit. Curiosity doesn't belong to youth, it belongs to the alive. If you wake up at 65 and still ask, "What can I learn today?" you are not aging, you are blooming. If you sit with someone half your age and listen instead of instruct, you are not fading, you are expanding. If you read books outside your comfort, try music that your ears aren't used to, or let a new philosophy enter your heart, you are not done, you are just beginning a different chapter. But let's tell the truth. Curiosity requires humility, and many lose that humility with age. They feel that having lived long means they must always know more. They confuse age with authority. But real authority comes not from answers. It comes from the courage to keep asking, to stay teachable, to admit, even with a lifetime behind you, that there are still things you do not know. When people stop being curious, they stop listening. They stop being fascinated. They stop being enchanted by the ordinary. They no longer pause to admire a sunset or lean in to hear how someone else sees the world. They dismiss what's unfamiliar because it feels safer to stand in what's already known. But that safety, it's a trap disguised as peace. You are not safer just because you stopped stretching. You are only quieter. You are not wiser just because you stopped wondering. You are only older, and there's nothing wrong with being older, but to be older and still hungry for insight, still open to magic, still dazzled by the small mysteries of life, that's where the gold lives. The mind after 60 can still be sharp, still be rich, still be beautifully naive to things it hasn't yet learned. It just needs practice. Practice in curiosity, practice in questioning, practice in wonder. Ask yourself, when was the last time you learned something new, not because you had to, but because you wanted to? When was the last time you read a book in a genre you don't usually like, or watched a documentary that challenged your worldview? When was the last time you asked a child to teach you something and truly listened, not as an adult showing patience, but as a student eager to receive? These are not small acts. They are not trivial. They are resistance against the creeping fog of apathy. They are rebellion against the lie that says curiosity belongs to the young. Somewhere inside you is still the child who asked too many questions, the teenager who felt the world was wide open, the young adult who dreamed with open eyes. That part of you is not dead. It is only quiet, waiting for you to invite it back into your life. Let that part speak again. Let it ask strange questions and seek strange answers. Don't be embarrassed to start over in something. Don't be ashamed to not know. Ignorance is not a weakness. It's a door, and curiosity is the key that opens it. You can still study new languages, still paint with shaky hands, still write poems about flowers or heartbreak, still pick up history books and gasp at things you didn't know. Still travel, even if it's only in your mind. Still dream of things you haven't seen, foods you haven't tasted, people you haven't met. The moment you say, "There's still more out there for me," you've already defied aging. And let us not forget, curiosity keeps the heart open, not just the mind. When you remain curious about others, about why they believe what they do, what moves them, what they've seen, you stay connected. You stay soft. And softness is not weakness. It's humanity in full bloom. It is curiosity that prevents you from growing bitter. Because the moment you stop asking why, you start assuming. And assumptions are the roots of judgment, resentment, and loneliness. But a curious heart keeps reaching, keeps learning, keeps loving in new ways. There is no shame in being a beginner again. In fact, there is a sacredness in it. The beginner sees with clear eyes. The beginner listens with both ears. The beginner holds no pride, only a hunger to understand. What if at 70 you became a beginner again in something? What if you approached life with the gentle courage of someone who is still in awe? The world is still speaking to you. The trees still whisper wisdom. The stars still hum their secrets. The eyes of strangers still hold new stories. But only if you're curious enough to look. Only if you're humble enough to ask. Only if you're bold enough to learn. So don't let curiosity be something you used to have. Let it be something you practice daily. Keep your mind wide, keep your heart tender, keep asking, because the truly alive, no matter their age, are the ones who never stop wondering what else life might be trying to show them. The body is not a burden. It is the first and final home you'll ever know. But after 60, many people begin to treat it like a betrayal. They walk into their later years cursing the very frame that carried them, the same knees that once danced, the same hands that once cradled babies, built homes, baked bread, wrote letters. They look in the mirror and see decline, not devotion. They see wrinkles, not wisdom. They see weight, not worth. Somewhere between youth and elderhood, we are taught to view the aging body as broken, as something to be hidden, apologized for, tolerated. But the body is not a problem. It's a partner. It has fought for you, bled for you, healed from cuts, and carried grief in its shoulders, loss in its spine, joy in its chest. And still it shows up for you each morning. Maybe slower, maybe softer, but still faithful. But what do? We speak to it with unkindness. We say, I'm too old for that now. We sit more than we move. We feed it less of what it needs and more of what numbs. We make it small. We treat pain like a death sentence instead of a signal. We blame age instead of listening deeper. And over time, this habit of neglect turns the body from a place of power into a prison. The body is listening to how you speak about it. If you curse it, it will shrink. If you ignore it, it will ache louder. If you love it, even gently, even imperfectly, it will respond. Because even now, in its aches and imperfections, it wants to serve you. It wants to move, to breathe deeply, to taste, to touch, to stretch, to sweat, to rest, to release. But too many people after 60 stop moving out of fear. They fear injury. They fear judgment. They fear the unfamiliar. So they sit. They become still. And that stillness, when not rooted in intention, begins to rot. Muscles fade. Bones ache. Breaths get shorter. And what they call aging is often just accumulation of stillness. Let's speak the truth. You may not run like you used to. You may not lift what you once did. But your body is not done. Not by a long shot. It was never meant to remain static. Movement is medicine. Not marathons, not mountain climbing, just daily devotion. Walk to your gate and back. Stretch while the kettle boils. Dance in your living room to a song from your youth. These are sacred rituals. These are prayers made flesh. And please don't confuse beauty with youth. The world will try to convince you that once your skin softens and your waist thickens, your beauty has passed. But that is a lie born of consumerism and fear. True beauty deepens with age. It lives in the way you carry yourself, in the softness of your gaze, in the grace of your hands, your laugh lines, your posture when you walk into a room. The body after 60 may not be glossy, but it is golden. And gold doesn't shine because it's new. It shines because it's real. One of the quietest killers in old age is disconnection from the body. You begin to speak about it like it's separate from you. My back is bad. These old knees of mine. I just don't have the energy anymore. These phrases are not just words. They are spells. They shape how you move, how you eat, how you sleep, how you show up. Speak gently. Say instead, my body is asking for rest. I am learning to support my knees better. I will find energy in what brings me joy. Because often the body isn't exhausted from aging. It's exhausted from being unloved. There's something sacred in daily physical care. Rubbing lotion into your arms, massaging your feet before sleep, stretching slowly in the morning, taking deep, intentional breaths that reach the bottom of your lungs. These are not luxuries. They are love in action. You don't have to wait for a diagnosis to start caring. You don't have to wait until something goes wrong to start listening. The body keeps score of everything. every trauma, every celebration, every secret you've held in your jaw or your gut. And it doesn't ask you to fix everything. It just asks you to be present, to say, I'm here, I hear you. Let's move through this together. When you do that, when you move from judgment to companionship, you begin to reclaim yourself. Let food be a joy, not a punishment. Let movement be celebration, not correction. Let sleep be honored, not interrupted by guilt. Your body is not here to be tamed. It is here to be loved. It is here to house your soul until your final breath. You may live in a world that worships youth, but you are not required to obey that altar. You can choose instead to worship vitality, honesty, and endurance. Your body has endured. That alone deserves reverence. Imagine what might change if instead of asking, what can I do anymore? You asked, what new way can I do this now? You don't have to dance like you did at 20, but you can sway your hips, lift your arms, feel music pulse through you. You don't have to hike mountains, but you can walk beneath trees and remember that you too are part of nature, still growing, still beautiful. And let us not forget, the body is where our spirit meets the world. Without it, we cannot hug. We cannot laugh from the belly. We cannot cry into someone's shoulder. We cannot taste our favorite tea or smell a blooming flower. To resent the body is to resent the very tool we use to express love. So be gentle, be grateful, be patient, and most of all, be active in the ways that fit you. Not to meet an old standard, but to meet your body where it is with respect and devotion. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be present. There are many ways to die, and the quietest of them all is isolation. Not the kind that happens because you move to a new town or because the house feels too big now. No, this kind of isolation seeps in through closed-off hearts. It begins when you stop answering the phone, when you convince yourself people don't want to be bothered, when the silence stops feeling peaceful and starts sounding like an empty room. At first, it's comforting to withdraw, to rest, to pull back from the noise of the world. And yes, solitude has its place. It is sacred, healing, necessary. But solitude and isolation are not the same. One feeds your soul, the other starves it slowly. There is a time in life when connection comes easy, when the children are small and your days are loud with chores and errands, when your phone rings because people need you, when your calendar is full, even if you don't want it to be. But then something shifts. Retirement rolls in, children move out, friends move on or pass on. The pace slows. And if you're not careful, the stillness becomes a wall, not a window. After 60, many begin to believe that the world no longer needs their presence, that they've had their moment, and now it's time to shrink into the background. So they sit in silence, not because they enjoy it, but because they've forgotten how to reintroduce themselves to life. They convince themselves it's fine that they've adjusted, but inside something aches. Something vital goes untouched. We were not made to be alone for long. Even the most introverted among us still need to be seen, to be heard, to be held. We need the soft balm of another's voice, the spark of laughter that can't be found in a book, the small, unremarkable moments that stitch life together, the shared coffee, the familiar face across the table, the warmth of someone remembering your name. Too many elders begin to live in emotional deserts. Deserts that didn't form overnight but were slowly carved out by loss, disappointment, betrayal, pride, fear, and most of all, resignation. They stop reaching out. They say, they know where I am if they want to find me. They say, people are too busy these days. And maybe that's true, but the deeper truth is they stop knocking on the door. Real connection doesn't always come to you. Sometimes you must go to it. You must be the one who calls, who sends the letter, who smiles first, who opens the conversation, even when your heart feels tired or unsure. Yes, it's vulnerable. Yes, it's risky. But it's necessary. You do not have to be surrounded by people to feel connected, but you do have to let your heart remain open. And an open heart is one that stays curious, forgiving, generous. It doesn't hoard bitterness or catalog old wounds like trophies. It doesn't use the past as proof that connection is dangerous. It understands that love hurts sometimes, but disconnection wounds much deeper. After 60, some people begin to armor up. They say, I've been through too much to open up again, and I understand. Loss is heavy, betrayal cuts deep, loneliness makes you wary, but let me ask you, what is the alternative? To close yourself off so completely that no one can reach you? To pretend you're fine while quietly starving for affection? That is not strength. That is surrender in disguise. Don't let your home become a cave. Don't let your life become a long hallway with no doors. There is someone out there who would be blessed by your story, by your presence, by your truth. But you must make yourself available. You must risk being seen again. It doesn't take a crowd. One true friend, one real connection can bring the soul back to life. Someone who sees you not just as a retired worker or a parent or a neighbor, but as a whole person. Someone who asks, how are you really? And listens to the answer. If you have people, cherish them, call them, visit when you can, forgive them if they falter. Tell them what they mean to you before time steals the chance. If you've lost people, grieve them, yes, but don't let their absence close your heart to new faces. Love didn't die with them. It still lives, waiting for you to find it in new forms. And if you feel like you're alone right now, really, painfully alone, start small. Sit in a park. Say hello to the clerk at the store. Write a letter to someone from your past. Join a group, even if it's just once. Volunteer somewhere, not because you need to be needed, but because presence is medicine. Even if it feels awkward, keep showing up. Sometimes healing doesn't arrive in a grand moment. It comes in the form of a shared laugh with a stranger. Technology can be both a wall and a bridge. If it's keeping you from people, put it down. But if it can bring you closer, if it means FaceTiming a grandchild, or joining a book club online, or sending a voice note instead of a text, use it. Don't let the tools of today pass you by. You are not too old to connect in new ways. And please do not believe the myth that people have forgotten you, that no one cares, that you've become invisible. Sometimes people just don't know how to reach you. Sometimes they're wrapped in their own storms. Don't assume silence means disregard. Instead of waiting, be the one who breaks the silence. There is strength in vulnerability, strength in being the first to say, I miss you, strength in asking for help, in showing up even when your heart feels weary, in offering a piece of your story to someone who needs it. Every time you open yourself to connection, you are declaring that you are still alive, not just breathing, but truly, fully alive. Your presence matters. Your words matter. Your laughter still has healing in it. Your embrace still brings warmth. Your memory, your wisdom, your attention, these are sacred gifts and they are still needed in this world. So don't let the walls get too thick. Don't let the house grow too quiet. Don't let the story end with they just drifted away. Stay in the weave of human belonging. Keep reaching, keep responding, keep letting the light in, because while solitude can make you wise, it is connection that makes you whole. Bitterness is a quiet inheritance, passed down from generation to generation like a locket filled with ashes. And far too often, people wear it close to the heart, thinking it's part of who they are. They feed it little sips of memory, rehearse the old betrayals, polish the pain until it glistens like truth. But bitterness is not truth. It is only unhealed grief with a sharp tongue. You reach a certain age and you've carried many things: children, burdens, responsibilities, secrets. but none of them weigh as heavy as unforgiven wounds. Because the body will bend, the bones will ache, the eyes may dim, but it is bitterness that makes the spirit heavy. It turns your words dry, your eyes suspicious, your laughter short. And if left untouched, it will not only dim your light, it will choke it. By 60, life has given most of us some reasons to be bitter. People who left, people who lied, dreams that slipped through our fingers, choices we regret, pain that came from nowhere and refused to leave. And in the face of that, it's easy to build a wall and call it wisdom, to say, I've learned not to trust, to say, I won't forgive because they don't deserve it. But forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. You're the one carrying the weight. You're the one waking up with it in your chest. You're the one whose hands shake not from age, but from holding on too tightly to what should have been let go years ago. People think bitterness is strength, that it protects, that it proves how deeply we were wounded. But what it really does is block the sunlight. Bitterness is armor, yes, but it's heavy armor that keeps out love, too. You can't open your arms to joy when they're crossed with resentment. There are women who've been angry at their mothers for 40 years and never said it aloud. Men who still carry what their fathers never gave them. Friends who parted with sharp words and never looked back. Lovers who betrayed, and every partner since has paid for it. You may not speak their names, but your soul remembers, and your body remembers. The tightness in the jaw, the tension in the neck, the heaviness in the breath. This is not just aging. This is storage. The body stores what the heart refuses to process. Every grudge is a bruise that never healed. Every resentment is a wound that got buried, not mended. And after years, decades, lifetimes, they begin to shape you. You become defensive, suspicious, critical, not because you were born that way, but because bitterness slowly reshaped your posture. You do not have to carry it anymore. You do not have to carry the things that others failed to heal in themselves. You do not have to carry the shame they projected, the cruelty they gave, the apologies they never spoke. You are not a storage unit for other people's brokenness. You are a living, breathing soul worthy of release. Forgiveness is not about pretending it didn't happen. It's not about letting someone back into your life or saying what they did was okay. It's about saying, this pain is no longer my home. It's about reclaiming your peace, not for them, but for you. And hear this truth. Forgiveness doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes the apology never comes. Sometimes the other person moves on or dies or forgets. But that doesn't mean your healing has to wait. Your freedom is not dependent on their recognition. It's yours to claim, even if no one claps for you. You may feel justified in your bitterness, and maybe you are. Maybe you were truly wronged, deeply, repeatedly. But the longer you carry it, the more it becomes part of you. And the question becomes, is it worth it? Is the bitterness bringing you peace? Is it making you feel strong? Or is it simply keeping you company in your loneliness? You cannot carry bitterness and beauty at the same time. One will always crowd the other out. And you deserve beauty. You deserve softness. You deserve joy that doesn't have to climb over walls to reach you. Let it go, not because it's easy, but because you've carried it long enough. You've earned the right to live unburdened, to sit in a quiet room and not be haunted by old conversations, to look in the mirror and see only yourself, not the people who wounded you, to wake up and not feel that heavy blanket of unfinished pain. Let it go, even if it trembles in your hands. Even if you don't know who you are without it. Even if forgiveness feels too generous. Let it go anyway, because you cannot bloom while holding a sword. There are people who need the version of you that is free, who need your tenderness, your stories, your undimmed spirit. But you cannot give them that while your heart is tethered to the past, and you may not even realize how much it's costing you. the smile that never fully forms, the embrace that feels half-hearted, the joy that fizzles too quickly. Bitterness taxes your joy. It's the hidden toll at every emotional bridge. And the older you get, the more expensive it becomes. You deserve peace, even if no one gave it to you before, even if your childhood was stained, even if your marriage failed, even if your friends betrayed you, even if your parents never said, "I'm proud of you." You deserve peace, not because the world has been kind, but because you are choosing to be kind to yourself now. Do not pass down your bitterness like a story. Let the legacy end with you. Let your children inherit your strength, not your scars. Let your presence be a place of peace, not silent rage. People may never know the depth of what you've forgiven, but they will feel the lightness of your soul. And yes, it takes work. Daily, quiet, thankless work. Sitting with the memory and choosing not to pick the scab. Breathing through the urge to rehearse the pain again. Whispering to yourself, "I am more than what they did to me." That is not weakness. That is spiritual power. You are not too old to heal. You are not too late. It is never too late to loosen the grip, to uncurl the fist, to open the heart again, to smile and mean it, to love without armor, to sit in the sun and feel free, not just from the noise of the world, but from the noise inside your own chest. Bitterness is not your inheritance. Peace is. Compassion is. Wholeness is. Let the story change now. Let your heart become light again. Let yourself become new, not because you forgot, but because you remembered who you were before the wound. Let it go. You are still becoming. Somewhere along the road, after a few decades of living, we are handed a silent message that the best years are behind us, that the big moments, the grand loves, the wild adventures, the deep becoming are done, that from now on, life is about remembering, not creating. But that message is not truth. It is a myth, a tired myth dressed in the language of realism. And too many people, by the time they reach 60, begin to speak it as gospel. They say, "I've had my time." They say, "That part of life is over." They say it so often that they start to believe it. Their voice becomes smaller, their laughter more contained, their steps more hesitant, not because life has shrunk, but because their hope has. And yet, what if the best is not behind you? What if the richest chapters have yet to be written, not in the wild, youthful ink of urgency, but in the slow, sacred script of wisdom? What if you are just now becoming the person you were always meant to be? The world doesn't prepare us for that truth. It tells us we peak young, that our value fades with age, that wrinkles are warnings and gray hairs are endings. But listen closer, not with your ears, but with your soul. You'll hear something different. You'll hear that the soul does not age. It stretches, it softens, it deepens. And that depth, that quiet, unshakable depth, that is where life gets extraordinary. You see, in your 20s, you search. In your 30s, you build. In your 40s, you juggle. In your 50s, you often begin to reckon. But after 60, something sacred happens if you let it. You begin to choose only what matters. You stop performing. You stop people-pleasing. You stop pretending you don't know what you know. And in that space where the unnecessary burns off, you are finally free to become, but only if you believe it's still possible. The tragedy is not in growing older. The tragedy is in believing that growth is no longer yours to claim, that dreaming is a young person's game, that reinvention belongs to the restless, that passion is out of reach. But tell me, what do you lose by believing the best is still ahead? Nothing but your doubt, nothing but your resignation. And what do you gain? Everything. You gain mornings that greet you like a poem. You gain the courage to try something new, not to prove anything, but because you can. You gain the wisdom to enjoy your own company without apology. You gain the joy of becoming your own sanctuary. When you believe your best years are behind you, you live like a ghost. You haunt your own memories. You replay old glories and forget that your breath still carries potential. You sit in rooms full of yesterday and miss the miracle of today. But when you believe the best is still ahead, even just a little, you begin to come alive again. You paint, you walk taller, you speak with more intention. You look at your reflection and see not loss, but legacy. There is no age limit on wonder, no expiration date on growth. You can still fall in love, still write the book, still travel, even if only in spirit, still learn to cook a new recipe, say a new prayer, speak a new truth, still start over, still feel thrilled by something unexpected, still rise. And rising doesn't always mean achieving. Sometimes it means awakening, rising into awareness, rising into clarity, rising into the quiet confidence that nothing behind you is greater than what's inside you. Don't let the past become a cage. Let it be a compass. Let it remind you of how far you've come, but don't let it convince you you've gone far enough. There is still air in your lungs, and that means life has not finished speaking to you. It has more to show you, more to teach you, more to celebrate with you. You may say, but I don't feel like I used to. Of course not. You feel deeper now. You feel wiser. You've lost some things, yes, but what you've gained cannot be measured by mirrors or clocks. You've gained discernment, compassion, courage wrapped in softness. That is not decline. That is ascent. You may move slower, but you move with intention. You may speak less, but when you speak, people listen. You may be more selective, but that means your energy is sacred. You've learned not to chase what isn't meant for you. That's not aging. That's rising. Don't measure your life in comparison to a younger you. Measure it against your own becoming. Are you more at peace? Are you more in tune? Are you living from your core? These are the measures that matter now. Not how high you climb, but how deeply you root. You can still change your story, still choose joy over bitterness, still fall in love with the morning light, still forgive what once kept you stuck, still be someone's miracle simply by showing up as yourself. And remember, the most meaningful things often bloom later. Trees bear fruit after years of silent growing. Flowers open in the right season, not the fastest one. Some of the most beautiful truths in life reveal themselves slowly. You are no different. You are still unfolding. So speak to yourself with gentleness. Don't say, it's too late. Say, if I'm still breathing, I'm still becoming. Don't say, those days are gone. Say, today holds its own kind of magic. You do not have to chase youth. You do not have to recreate the past. You only need to embrace the present with the full force of your soul. Let go of the myth that says the sun has set on you. The sun is rising differently now. Soft, sure, steady. And if you look closely, you'll see that it is rising within you. You may no longer be driven by ambition, but you can be moved by meaning. You may not hunger for achievement, but you can thirst for fulfillment. You may not chase time, but you can savor it like never before. This is the gift of now, the gift of age, the gift of choosing to believe that your most authentic self is not behind you, but before you, still possible, still blooming, still more than enough. And when you walk with that belief, even your silence becomes a song, even your stillness becomes sacred, even your ordinary days become holy. So lift your chin, uncross your arms, step forward, not with urgency, but with grace. The road didn't end behind you, it simply curved. And what lies ahead might just be the part of the story where you finally meet your truest self. You are not finished. The best is not behind you, not if you choose to keep becoming. There is a reason the candles on a birthday cake burn brighter with age. They carry more stories, more resilience. But you don't have to burn out. You can blaze, refuse to sit in the shadow of what's past. After 60, you don't need to run faster, but you do need to walk toward yourself. You are not fading, you are ripening. And the world still needs your wisdom, your warmth, your fire. Avoid these 5 habits, and don't just aim to live past 85. Aim to live deeply, fully, fiercely until your final breath, because you were not born to die quietly. You were born to live magnificently, even now.